Welcome to the first ever Wellness That Works podcast. In this series, we're going to be talking to our community about how WW works for them. We'll talk through their stories, get tips and advice, and also have a bit of fun. We've launched this podcast because we know that your well-being is not just about weight loss. And by talking to different people about their stories, we hope to entertain you, give you some time out of your day, maybe a bit of me time. We all know we need it. My name's Sam. I work in publishing and content, and I talk to hundreds of members over the year about their stories and how WW has worked for them. This is Lily.
Hi, I'm Lily. I'm in the social team and I'm a WW member myself. So I have a lot of dealings with the member ambassadors too. And through our work, we love talking about everything to do with WW and mainly food, which is why today our theme of the episode is around summer socializing. So we want to be able to talk about how you can balance food and fun and then everything in between. And we thought who better to do that with us than our very own member ambassador, Fiona.
Hello.
She's joined us today. She's big on our Instagram and Connect channels. So Connect, for any of you that don't know, is the WW community built into our app for members only. And Fiona is a massive inspiration to a lot of people on there. So hi, Fiona. You're here today with us. So it'd be really great if you could introduce yourself to anyone that doesn't know you from any of the social channels out there, about what your WW journey's been like.
Hi Sam, hi Lily. How exciting, the first WW podcast. I'll be very honest, I'm a bit of a virgin podcast, so please be kind.
Don't worry, we're all in it together.
So I'm Fiona Dawson. I joined WW nearly 3 years ago. I'm now a gold member and it took me 6 months to get to my goal weight. I've now maintained just shy of 4 stone and I've maintained that for over 2 years.
That's
Well
so
done.
amazing.
Very
And
good.
what was your reason for joining? Like, what was your why?
Well, I think I sort of spent my time thinking to myself that life should be for living. We should be making more of our lives, and I just wasn't. I feel I was stuck in a rut. I was in a very sad state of affairs with my job. I just wasn't enjoying it. It was long hours, it was stressful, and through the stress, I was eating. And so unfortunately, the weight was just piling on. And I took a very brave decision and decided I was going to quit the job. A really big sort of decision to make.
Yeah.
Extremely brave, but I needed to get some perspective back in my life and get some balance back in. I was determined more than ever to sort myself out. I also wanted to get back into a whole load of clothes that had been in my wardrobe for 15, 20 years of various different sizes that I'd said, oh yeah, I'll just keep it just in case. Yeah, I'm going to lose the weight. It'll be fine. And actually, one of those dresses I wear to my WW workshop on a weekly weigh-in because it is my lightweight summer dress, and I've owned that dress for nearly 20 years.
I think that's why you are such a great inspiration for a lot of our members and for people listening now is, you know, you've got various reasons that you joined, and any of those are probably reasons that our members would join, whether that's, you know, making more time for themselves, you know, a change in their life period. You always talk about life changes, Sam, or just a simple fact of sorting the wardrobe out. So yeah, it'll be so good to hear about that. And I think the other obvious reason we wanted to talk to you is you are a foodie. And Sam is a foodie and she is obsessed with everything you do. So she's going to have a lot of questions
We
for
love
you.
food, and we like to enjoy our food.
And it's important to enjoy food as well.
It is very important to enjoy food, and at WW, you know, we know that nothing's off the menu. Absolutely. It's not a restrictive diet. It's a choice that you make, and you know your boundaries of your choices, and it just nudges you in the direction of making smart choices, which your food really is. I mean, it is an inspiration. You know, I produce the cookbooks and the magazine, and when I see you looking at our recipes and producing our recipes and putting them in Instagram, I'm always like, yeah, Fiona's done it. So really good. So how did you get into cooking? Did you cook before? much before you joined WW?
I've always cooked. I've always enjoyed cooking, and to be honest, I loved cooking as a child and at school, but I've never really had what I call the passion or the flair until actually about 3 years ago. And as I've said, I've been a member for 3 years. I think just focusing on various things like portion control has been one of the biggest changes I've made, and learning about what foods will keep me fuller for longer, and that actually react well with my digestive system, because obviously I need to learn what works for me, because we're all different on that side of things. I make most of my meals from scratch, because I find that cooking actually de-stresses me. It's a love and passion that I've had for, as I say, the last few years.
Sorry, I was going to say, just one person's chore is another person's habit that they actually enjoy. You know, cleaning can be one, and cooking is the other.
Yeah, I was going to say, how do you come up with your ideas then for cooking? Do you?
Obviously following the WW plan, I always want to get the most out of my daily points. I try and think things through, and I'm a real planner. I think ahead as much as possible. I try and be creative. I do lots of experiments that don't work at home, that I don't share online.
Why would you?
Exactly.
It's not helpful for anybody.
But it's actually, I feel it's the first time in my life that I feel I'm being as creative with anything, and that I'm actually having a creative flair. I always used to follow others. Do you know what I mean by that? In the sense, everybody else used to come up with great ideas, and I used to think, why couldn't I think of that? And actually, this area of cooking, the first time in my life I have actually felt passionate about anything, and it's just ignited something. It really has.
That's really nice. So we know you love a cookbook.
Yes.
And I'm sure that you may have a few favourites.
At the last count, I have 16 of the WW cookbooks.
Need more shelves, husband?
Yes, definitely. But they've all given me inspiration. And to be honest, when I first joined WW, one of the first books that I bought was the One Pot cookbook. And the reason that I loved that was because everything went into one dish. Which meant less washing up. Yep. Fantastic. Yep. One of the most recent books that I love is the WW Cook book, the one that
which you bought today.
I bought it today. I'm in so much love.
Carries it around with you.
It is 5 ingredients or fewer, plus your obviously essential items that you have in the cupboard, and it truly is exactly that. I have probably cooked most of the recipes out of that book now, and I do my best to recreate your amazing photographs that you produce.
So that was going to be our next question, wasn't it? We were talking about this earlier. How do you make... So you're in your kitchen, you haven't got the lighting that we have in a shoot or whatever. How do you make the food look good? Have you got any tips or any sort of...
to be honest... I've got my little said space in the kitchen now that has become my dedicated area.
Your Instagram
my
corner.
Instagram corner. And it's just practice. Yes, initially it did take time, and sometimes I would get a cold plate of food. But I have changed that because, that's not ideal.
You need to live as well.
Exactly, you do. But I think it is a matter of, I do plate things up on it so that I know that it's going to look good for the camera. It's just how actually it helps me look at my food and think, oh my gosh, that looks delicious. I'm eating this on a healthy plan, really, and that's what it's helped me with. Is that sort of psychological thing. I have become so much more passionate with my ideas that actually I share my own recipes online as well that people seem to love. Everybody asks me to make a cookbook, or everybody asks me to go into their house and actually cook for them. That'd be great, but not quite possible.
And that was one thing we've talked about with you in the past, is you do come up with some, to most people, bizarre inventions. So, you know, the thought of crushing up chickpeas to create a breadcrumb, because obviously for those that don't know, chickpeas are a 0-point food on WW, so that would be a lot lower in points than real breadcrumbs. I mean, where does that come from in your mind?
Again, it is just making good use of the 0-point foods and thinking outside the box and thinking to myself, okay, I've got X amount of daily points, how can I adjust that? And how can I sort of make it out to be a 0-point meal or a 0-point food, like the turkey Scotch eggs that I made with the chickpea crumb.
That was amazing.
So
Very impressive.
I have to say it really works as well.
Okay.
I think one thing you touched on quite a bit was simplicity. So a lot of people worry that completely changing the way they eat means there's going to be complications. I'm going to have to cook different for my family or my partner, but you know, you talk a lot about your hubby on the gram, so you know, how do you find that it fits in with your daily family life?
Well, I have not had to approach things in the sense of I cook separate foods for me to him, because actually what I love about certainly the recipes that WW supply, whether that be on the app or in the books, is that they are family friendly. And actually my husband then usually ends up with 2 servings, just because his metabolism seems to be able to cope with that.
I can relate to that with my boyfriend as well.
But the nice thing is I'm not feeding him, he might be having 2 portions, but it's not unhealthy. And he loves it. He absolutely loves it. So yeah.
Oh, that's good. So this all sounds very perfect and lovely, and this is why we love to look at your Instagram channel, because your food looks so amazing. But what does a day look like to you when you've got in from work late, things have gone slightly wrong, you haven't got that ingredient that you need for that dish? What would be your go-to meal? Your go-to meal, maybe. If you need something quick and you haven't got time to deal with, you know, too much
drama.
prepping or whatever, no drama. And then my second question would be, then if you did go for the takeaway also, what option would you go for? So,
well, yes, your day doesn't always go to plan. I am generally organised as much as possible, but I mean, for instance, there are times where you see me create my amazing breakfasts, for instance, but there are times where I do just have cereal with milk and nothing else. You know, there's no creativity there. But for instance, of an evening, if I get in, scrambled egg on toast, it takes 2 seconds really to do. It's so filling. I am an absolute egg queen. I love eggs, and obviously they are a 0-point food. So I never feel guilty about eating that type of food, even if I have had to do it quickly and in a hurry. I mean, the other night my day did not go to plan, and I got home late. And actually the perfect solution was in my fridge, and that was one of the new WW ready meals, because it was zapped in the microwave, and it was on my plate within 4 minutes.
Fiona Dawson has ready meals in her fridge.
She still made it look really pretty though. Like she did.
I missed that one. I need to go back and have a look.
I had the red Thai chicken curry, which is 7 smart points, and that includes the rice, and you get loads of sauce, loads of meat, and it is a really tasty recipe for 7 smart points. So highly recommend it.
Enjoyed that one.
Yeah,
That's
I did.
Good.
Yeah.
And that is the thing, like obviously no foods are off limits. So people can have an off day in terms of they feel off in themselves, and that doesn't mean they can't eat something that's going to cheer them up or you know, make them feel like they're back in control.
I mean, there are days where my emotions get the better of me, and yes, I sometimes think, oh gosh, I just feel that I'm going to crave something, and it's my temptation's going to give in. And to be honest though, if it does, it does. I enjoy that food. I don't deprive myself and start thinking about not eating it.
No.
If I eat it, I enjoy it, I track it, and I just move on,
Because
and I
life
just
is
get
about
back.
balance,
Absolutely,
right?
it is about balance.
Yeah.
You can't be perfect all the time.
But that's what is perfect. It's like, balance is, for me, balance is perfect. That's how you live a
going
healthy
back to your
life, so-
question about takeaway.
Oh yeah, we didn't
Yeah.
hit on that. But
See, I remembered.
I'm always interested to know if you're going to go for the healthier option of takeaway.
I
I'll ask
honestly
everybody
think
this.
my brain has been rewired.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it, because I do think about things. And I would, out of, say, your pizzas, your Chinese, your Indian, even though your Indian food can be quite high, the flavours for me for Indian food is far more my preference, and so I do go for an Indian, but I would have something like a chicken shashlik with plain rice, but I will make sure that I include the 2-3 glasses of wine that obviously go alongside that. Obviously.
I was going to bring up the wine if Fiona didn't, and the wine.
Yeah, let's keep it real.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I mean, looking out of the window right now, it's quite overcast, but it is summer and we have had some good weather. So we need to talk about how we keep that balance. And, maybe an Indian takeaway, it's a bit hot for an Indian takeaway. So, how do you feel your feelings towards summer have changed? Not just with food, but in yourself. You've lost 4 stone. That's a large amount of body that you've lost.
Yeah, no thigh rub anymore.
Yeah, that's always a plus.
I think, I'm actually going back to that. I am just more comfortable in the heat. Because that does have a big effect on people. But I actually find it easier to eat healthier foods in the warmer weather. I'm less inclined to crave what I call comfort food, which is more my challenge probably in the winter seasons. So I actually find that because I'm drinking a lot of water also in the summer, that sounds weird, but I don't get as hungry. I just, because of the heat, that's how it sort of affects.
I don't think that's weird. I think, we've just had the heat wave, haven't we? And a lot of people have been saying that online that, I'm not actually that hungry today. I just want something little.
I did manage some ice cream though.
Obviously.
Oh,
yeah.
It's an upside to summer.
Yeah.
So if you were going to a summer social, would you prefer to be going to a summer social, or would you prefer to be hosting a summer social?
I think I have always loved entertaining and looking after people. That's just my caring nature, I think, in me. And so I would say I'm more of a host. I like to get my creative foodie hat on for that purpose. And I like to do a great variation of foods to cater for everyone. It also means I'm a little bit more in control of what I've got on offer, whether that be foods, drinks, etc. So
and also what's in each food, so therefore how to stay on track and naturally.
And for those moments where you can't take the reins and you do have to go to someone else's barbecue, what is your plan of action?
I'm quite good with that, because 9 times out of 10 you've usually got something about it ahead of schedule, and because of my planning, I've mentioned that a few times, that for instance my breakfast, I would make myself something like banana pancakes, 0 smart points, maybe adding some chocolate spread to it, just for sort of a little bit of points. Again, a low point lunch might look like an egg and tuna salad with some dressing on it. So really sticking to low points, and then actually making sure I enjoy myself at the event, using my dailies and not forgetting to use my weeklies, of course.
Yes, and for those that don't know, so on the WW plan you get your smart point allowance throughout the day, which will be dependent on who you are. That is personalised, but you then do get a weekly allowance, which you can choose to use throughout the week, like a little bit each day, or you can use it all for a big event. And I agree, like I'm the same for summer socials. I will try and save those 4 rollovers you can get a day, add them on for the food and drink, and it's really good. I think this is the first weight loss plan I've been on where you don't have to be that annoying person that's asking, oh, what's in that? No. How did you make that? Right, this burger probably has X amount from the app. I can guesstimate how many points I've had.
Absolutely. I think one of the things I do factor in though, when I do know that I'm going out, is that I think to myself, okay, I'm going out, I'm going to use perhaps all of my dailies, and I'm going to be using a big chunk of my weeklies. I may go over my weeklies. The next day, you might find it harder to get back on plan than you think. And what I have now, before I used to think, right, I'm going to get back on plan, it's got to be strict. But actually, I have now worked into the fact that I might struggle for 24 hours or so, and that yes, my foods are planned, and yes, there's lots of options for me to eat, but actually if I do have to take 24 hours 48 hours to get back on track, I don't beat myself up. And I just I allow that.
No, because the weekly allowance, your weekly allowance is there to use it in those circumstances, so therefore you can get back on track or can be more careful maybe the next day.
A lot of people do put so much pressure on themselves, like, oh, I've had more than I planned, and now I must get back on it. Actually adding that pressure to yourself is more likely to hinder you. So it's really good you said about that kind of comfort blanket of 24 or 48 hours, and I think a lot of people will relate to that, or maybe that will have opened their eyes to, I shouldn't be being so harsh on myself.
It can really derail somebody when they feel like they've had it. They call it a bad day, and it's not a bad day. You've eaten what you've wanted to eat. It's a day.
But it takes a long time to learn that. It's not something you get straight off in the first month of weight loss.
I think we're really good at telling ourselves off and actually not giving ourselves a break. And I think that was a perfect example of don't tell yourself off. Give yourself a break. Enjoy the barbecue. Enjoy whatever you've just had, and move on.
We've talked a lot about food because that's what we all like a lot. And we've talked about well-being and how your confidence has grown, your support from other people has grown. But we know that you do love your fitness now as well, and that probably wasn't there initially. So how do you fit that in with your busy life as well, and what tips would you give to people?
Well, as you say, I absolutely love exercise, and I can't believe the change that it's had in me, not just from changing my body shape, but also the well-being side of things. I was always the one that did anything to get out of PE when I was younger. I was never a gym fanatic, and I'm still not a gym fanatic now. But when I started, I was finding, I had to find, something that worked for me. I had to look at something that didn't cost me much, and that I was going to enjoy. I started slowly. I had some low weights that I used at home to do some routines that would just introduce me to doing something. I would go out walking, and I might go for 1-2 miles for a walk. But what that then led to was, by building that up slowly, I was getting stronger. And so I started to use heavier weights. I started a body blast class at a local fitness centre, and I started running. And so I sort of started slow, and obviously I'm now sort of 3 years in, and not only just with the weight loss, obviously I've seen such a change that exercise can do. I can now run 6 or 7 miles without thinking about it. It's had a really positive impact, and when I go for a run, I feel like I'm escaping from the world.
Amazing. So it's been amazing to hear about your journey and to have a chat about everything WW. One thing we have done, which you would have seen on social, is we've asked our members to send in some questions, specifically for you. Okay. And we had over 50, which shows how popular Fiona is. But we've just picked a couple, and I think you've covered a lot, so we'll just pick the ones that maybe you haven't. Yeah. So D2501 from Instagram has asked, she said she's at goal again, so well done to D, But how can she keep the motivation to keep it off? I mean, we know maintenance is a whole other journey, right?
It is hard, but I think I've already touched on my why, and that is my constant reminder at the back of my head. And also what helps me is I do like looking at my old photographs, just because even though I sometimes don't even recognise myself in those pictures, it just reminds me that I don't want to go back there. And so actually sharing online has actually helped me stay on track with all of that. And I think sharing on Instagram, on Connect, actually that is one of my motivators to stay on board with it all. So, you know, that would be sort of something I would consider. If she doesn't share online, it could be an option, but just keep that why close to you.
Okay, good luck, Dee. Next one is from @Lucy Schilling. Is that I want to eat all the time. What are some low point snacks?
Well, I would go back to my planning side of things. That has been my key for me, making sure that you have got that all planned in. I think some great snacks we've got are the 0 point foods. I've already talked about having
them earlier. So eggs,
the hard-boiled eggs
to have in the fridge,
and the fruit supplies. But also have yourself. I've got at home a healthy eating snack box. I've also got another snack box. It's for the husband. So we have our own, and that's for emergency purposes, for whenever I'm sort of craving something sweet. But also egg muffins are something that I'm constantly making, and they're great for a savoury option. But don't be afraid of eating, you know, certain foods. It's just a matter of weighing it out and portion control.
Go back through Fiona's Instagram channel and I'm
feel free.
10 ways with chickpeas.
Yeah.
That could be a next cookbook.
Yeah, that's the next cookbook. Okay, this part of the podcast is our quickfire round. It's a bit of fun. It's a bit of fun, where we're going to ask you questions and ask you to answer them as quickly as possible. Okay, so
Can't promise.
do you want to start with
No
the first one?
overthinking either.
No overthinking. Okay, ready?
Okay.
Go.
Summer or winter?
Summer.
Pasta or pizza?
Pizza.
Yes.
I knew you'd like that.
Always pizza. Sweet or savoury?
Savoury.
Beach or city break?
That's really hard. I would have to go city break.
Oh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Night in or night out?
Oh, at my age, 19.
Kettle or kettlebells?
Oh, kettlebells now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Gym or gin?
Gin it has to be.
Yes. Cardio or weights?
I would go weights.
Yes, team weights.
I could tell it by your arm.
Hosting or attending, I'm guessing we'll know.
Hosting.
Another segment that we hope to do every time that we do a podcast is a WW dinner party. So we
Can
would
I come?
Yeah.
You
I was
are the
gonna
host.
say.
Oh, okay, excellent.
Yes, you get to be the host, which you love doing, and obviously you would normally invite me and Sam, but
Obviously.
if you couldn't invite me and Sam, who would the 3 people be that you would invite? So they can be people that have inspired you on your WW journey, celebrities, or even just really close friends and family.
Okay. Well, being the family girl that I am, my first 2 guests would be my mum and dad. My biggest supporters basically in life. My mum, because she is my best friend, and my dad, as I would love to see my dad again, because unfortunately he died 18 years ago, and I could show him and impress him with my cooking, which he has never known about. So that would be fantastic. Then I am torn between 2 people for my other guest. So I'm going to have 4 guests. I'm sorry.
All right, we'll pull up another chair for you.
Thanks. Now, my friends who know me will expect me to invite my childhood love of my life and actually into my adulthood life as well. Now, don't judge me here, but George Michael. Now, do you know what? I would love to meet him. I've met him and told him what an inspiring person he was to me, but also to the rest of the world, because I don't think he actually really realised he was. And then obviously the other would have to be my loving husband, Mr. D, who even though he gets a dinner party most evenings with my cooking, he would also get to meet my dad.
That would be lovely.
That's fair.
That's very nice.
I had to hold back from doing a careless whisper joke, but I'm not going to do it. this
Oh,
time.
good.
Not for the first episode. Yeah.
Whispers aren't on the WW plan, are they?
Exactly, that's why it's a careless whisper.
Oh, okay.
But yeah,
Gone straight over my head.
Oh, wow.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Fiona. It's time for us to thank everybody for listening. Keep an eye out on Instagram for where we will reveal our next guest and ask you to send in your questions.
And yeah, thank you to Fiona for being our first guest, our first
thank
speaker.
you. Thank you, Sam.
Yes, you've been an amazing first guest.
Yeah.
You've helped
Thank you,
us
Lily.
as well, so
Excellent.
thank you for that.
Thank you for having me. Absolutely honoured to be with you. Obviously, roll on the next episodes. And this is just my bit to say hello to everyone that knows me.
Hello, everyone that knows Fiona. Cool. Thanks, guys.
Thanks,
We're going to
guys.
see if she's snuck some food in now for us to try.
Of course.